Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttamaśloke Bhaktirbhavati Naishtiki Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम by his divine grace AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God. We are at text 43. We'll just recite this verse once again. Very beautiful verse. The effect of Lord's darshan and smelling the tulasi at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Tasya padarvindam
तस्यारविन्दनयनस्य पदारविन्द
Kinjal kamishra tulasi makarandavayuh
किञ्जल्कमिश्रतुलसी मकरन्दवायुः
Antargatasvavivareణ chakara tesham
Antargatah
अन्तर्गतस्वविवरेण
Svavivarena
चकार
Chakaratesham
तेषाम्
संक्षोभमक्षरजुषामपि चित्ततन्वोः
Samshobhamaksharajusham
संक्षोभमक्षरजुषामपि
Apichittatanvo
चित्ततन्वो.
Translation.
When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead entered the nostrils of those sages, they experienced a change both in the body and in mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. Purport. It appears from this verse that the four Kumaras were impersonalists or protagonists of the philosophy of monism, becoming one with the Lord. But as soon as they saw the Lord's features, their minds changed. In other words, the impersonalists who feel who feels transcendental pleasure in striving to become one with the Lord is defeated when he sees the beautiful transcendental features of the Lord. Because of the fragrance of his lotus feet carried by the air and mixed with the aroma of tulsi, their minds changed. Instead of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, they thought it wise to be devotees. Becoming a servitor of the lotus feet of the Lord is better than becoming one with the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So here it is. When the breeze carrying the aroma of the tulasi leaf, tasya ravinda, nayanasya, padaravindam, the lotus feet of the Lord, pada aravinda, kinjal kamishra tulasi. So when they smelled the tulasi leaves, suddenly their minds changed and they got attracted towards the personal features of the Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the four Kumaras were following the philosophy of monism, and this is, we have to understand, this monism is Brahmavad. So there is a difference between Brahmavad and Mayavad. What is the difference? Brahmavad, it is more about the ignorance of the personality of Godhead. Mayavad is about offending the personality of Godhead. Right? So the Brahmavadis, the Chatushkumaras were Brahmavadis, and they had no very clear idea of the personality of Godhead, but they were not Mayavadis. Mayavadis are the people who are offenders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, proclaiming everything to be Maya or false. Right? So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this, Mayavadi, Krishna Aparadhi. So, they were not Mayavadis, they were Brahmavadis. And as soon as this sudden appearance of the Lord and suddenly seeing the form of the Lord, smelling the tulsi, their mind was completely changed and they became devotees of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says, becoming servitor of the lotus feet of the Lord is better than becoming one with the Supreme Lord. Right? So then one can have entry in the Vaikuṇṭha, one can have direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the effect of, this is what has happened. So we have seen till now a very beautiful description of the form of the Lord, which in a very famous Abhanga, Tukaram Maharaj also, he very beautifully narrates the same form of the Lord. Sundarate dhyana ubhe vitevari is describing about Lord Viṭṭhala. Karakatavari thevoniya. Tulasi haragala kase pitambara avade nirantara techirupa. Makara kundala. Right. So we have seen here Makara kundala. Vidyut kshapan Makara kundala mandanarham. So this is text 41. Talapati means, they are very brightly Shravani. Kanthi kaustubhamani virajita. तुका म्हणे माझे हेची सर्व सुख पाहिन श्रीमुख आवडीने. So this is the form of the Lord, eternally glorified in and in the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Now we come to text 44. Srila Prabhupada writes very, very elaborate purport to this shloka. Okay. Deva amushya sita padmakosham udviksha sundarataradhara kundahasam labdva shesha punarveksha tadiyamangri dvandvannakharunamani shrayanam niyadhyo. Translation.
Translation: The Lord's beautiful face appeared to them like the inside of a blue lotus, and the Lord's smile appeared to be a blossoming jasmine flower. After seeing the face of the Lord, the sages were fully satisfied, and when they wanted to see him further, they looked upon the nails of his lotus feet, which resembled rubies. Thus, they viewed the Lord's transcendental body again and again, and so they finally achieved meditation on the Lord's personal feature. Hare Krishna.
So they observed the beautiful face of the Lord, which appeared like the inside of the lotus flower, blue lotus. Lord smiled like the blossoming jasmine flower. His nails, they appeared like resembled like the rubies. And thus they began to view the Lord again and again. And finally they achieved the meditation on the Lord's personal feature. So this is how the Brahmavadis, they became personalists and devotees of the Supreme Lord. This is the instance at where they are becoming devotees of the Supreme Lord. Text 45. Pumsam gatim mrigayatamiha yoga margair dhyanaspadaam bahumatam nayanabhiramam pausnam vapudarshayanam mananya siddhair autpaitikam samagrunan yugamashtabhogaihi. Translation.
This is the form of the Lord, which is meditated upon by the followers of the yoga process, and it is pleasing to the yogis in meditation. It is not imaginary but factual, as proved by great yogis. The Lord is full in 8 kinds of achievement, but for others, these achievements are not possible in full perfection. Purport: the success of the yoga process is very nicely described here. It is specifically mentioned that the form of the Lord as four-handed Nārāyaṇa is the object of meditation for the followers of Yoga Marga. In the modern age, there are so many so-called yogis who do not target their meditation on the four-handed Narayana form. Some of them try to meditate on something impersonal or void, but that is not approved by the great yogis who follow the standard method. The real yoga marga process is to control the senses, sit in a solitary and sanctified place, and meditate on the four-handed form of Narayana, decorated as described in this chapter as he appeared before the four sages. This Narayana form is Krishna's expansion. Therefore, the Krishna conscious movement is now spreading, is the real topmost process of yoga practice. Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. Despite all allurement of yoga practice, the 8 kind of yogic perfections are hardly achievable by the common man. But here it is described that the Lord who appeared before the four sages is himself full of all 8 of those perfections. The highest yoga marga process is to concentrate the mind 24 hours a day on Krishna. That is called Krishna consciousness. The yoga system, as described in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or as recommended in the Patanjali yoga process, is different from the nowadays practiced Hatha yoga, as it is generally understood in the Western countries. Real yoga practice is to control the senses, and after such control is established, to concentrate the mind on the Narayana form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the other Vishnu forms with 404 hands decorated with conch, lotus, club, and wheel are plenary expansions of Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that one meditate upon the form of the Lord. To practice concentration of the mind, one has to sit with the head and the back in straight line, and one must practice in a secluded place, sanctified by the sacred atmosphere. The yogi should observe the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, to strictly live a life of self-restraint and celibacy. One cannot practice yoga in a congested city, living a life of extravagancy, including unrestricted sex indulgence and adultery of the tongue. Yoga practice necessitates controlling the senses. The beginning of sense control is to control the tongue. One who can control the tongue can also have control over the other senses. One cannot allow the tongue to take all kind of forbidden food and drinks and at the same time advance in the practice of yoga. It is very regrettable fact that many unauthorized so-called yogis come to the Western countries and exploit people's inclination towards yoga practice. Such unauthorized yogis even dare to say publicly that one can indulge in the habit of drinking and at the same time practice meditation. 5,000 years ago,
Yeah,
Lord
so
Krishna
it's a
recommended.
long purport. We'll read the section. This is the form of the Lord, which is meditated upon by the followers of the yoga process. So this is exactly form of the Lord. Which form of the Lord? That we have seen till now. Very elaborately, the form of the Lord is being described. The kundala of the Lord, Makara kundala of the Lord, the helmet of the Lord, the beautiful Vaijayanti mala of the Lord, form of the Lord, his hands, the personality of Godhead. This is the form. This is the form of the Lord, where the followers of the yogic process, and this form is very pleasing to the yogis. It is not imaginary but factual and proved, as proved by these great yogis. And this form is filled full of the Ashtasiddhi. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes that the success of the yoga process is very nicely described here. And it is very specifically mentioned that it is this four-handed form of the Lord that the yogis should be following, meditating upon. So, Prabhupada says the modern times people have just speculated themselves that you can meditate on anything that you want. You can meditate on nothing. You can meditate on whatever object you like, and it is all stupidity. People will have, some point, or people will meditate on some flame. People will meditate on, and they will call it as the yoga marga. No, that can be one of the yogasana kriya, but it cannot be the yoga marga. The yoga marga, when Patanjali Yoga Sutra writes about yoga marga, he very clearly, even the Patanjali sage, he very clearly mentions about how to meditate. There is no scope for speculation. So the yoga marga means one has to control one's senses, and one has to meditate, go to the secluded place and meditate on the four-handed form of Narayana. And this meditation in Kali Yuga is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And therefore Prabhupada says, Lord, the Narayana form is the expansion of Krishna's form. Right? We have seen that how there is expansion takes place. Supreme Lord Shri Krishna expands into Balaramji, the first plenary expansion. And then there is a further expansion of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Niruddhas. From the Sankarshan comes Narayana, and from Narayana comes the second Vespa. From there comes the Purusha incarnations, and from there comes Brahmaji, and then later we have seen in very detail, we have seen the process of creation, right? Expansion like this. So the original form of the Lord is the personality of Godhead. Ete cham sakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Roji, your voice is not audible. Hari bol. Hare Krishna.
Probably is not able to hear us, Prabhuji. He must have lost connection thoroughly.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you are not audible. Harshad Prabhu, you are audible.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, I can hear you. Yeah, I think he has disconnected now and he's probably dialing in again.
Oh,
Hare Krishna. Am I
Hare
audible?
Krishna, Prabhu. Now, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so
Prabhu.
sorry. So the highest yoga is Krishna consciousness. So how Srila Prabhupada beautifully connects here, one can see origin of the Lord Nārāyaṇa is Sri Krishna, and similarly, the origin of all the different processes, including the process of meditation, is the process of Krishna consciousness. And this is the last verse of the 6th chapter, 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam seve yuktatamo matah. That my opinion, Lord Krishna says, my opinion is that amongst all different kinds of the yogis, the topmost yogis are bhakti yogi. And therefore, Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance. Despite all allurement of the yoga practice, the Ashtasiddhis can be hardly achieved by the common man. So now there was a Kumbh Mela was there, and we have seen different people coming with, there was one Baba, and we have respect to all of them, although we may describe it in a little different language. But we respect everyone. Every tapasya one who is performing is worth respecting. But there is one personality who was raising his hand for last some 25 years. He has not taken his hand down like that. He has just raised his hand. Just imagine, he has raised his hand for last 25 years. And that is his tapasya. And we respect that tapasya. And in spite of doing all different kind of tapasya, one can hardly attain any siddhi. There is hardly any Baba who can walk in the air, who can become lighter than the air, who can walk on the water, who can achieve anything that they want. People may have some frugal siddhi. Now just imagine, can a common man follow any of this kind of tapasya? Standing on one leg, we have seen the Babas who have pierced their body with thousands of nails and needles. There, somebody has pierced his tongue. Somebody has pierced, their cheek with a rod. Somebody is lifting his hand for, the decades together. Can a common man do that and live his normal life? And for what? For literally for very meager siddhi that one may attain, right? That's why Bhagavad Gita calls it klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhir avapyate. So Srila Prabhupada says the perfection that is attained by the yoga is very meager type of yoga siddhi that a common man attain by performing all these different kind of yoga practice. And therefore the highest yoga practice is to concentrate on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, 24 hours a day. And that's why Rupa Goswami says, Tasmat kenapi upayena mana Krishna niveshayat. Somehow or other, engage your mind in the service of Krishna. Tasmat kenapi upayena mana Krishna niveshayat. Now Prabhupada says, this is recommended by Bhagavad Gita, this is recommended by Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and this is recommended by Patanjali Yoga Sutra as well. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra, people, Prabhupada writes here, in the name of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, nowadays, anything is practiced in the name of Hatha Yoga, right? We have seen, it can go as stupid as there is, a yogic group in America, which is called as hot yoga. And hot yoga means they will just raise the temperature of the hall, some, 40 degrees Celsius or 42 degrees Celsius. And in the hot stream of the airs, they will practice yoga and they will sweat very profusely. And okay, it may have some physical benefit, but at least don't call it a yoga. Why? Because the yoga itself means one has to concentrate on the form of the Lord given by Patanjali. Many descriptions are there as Patanjali as the one who is a very empowered personality to describe and propagate the Yoga Sutras and the Yoga Marga. And especially this is not recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is recommended by the Lord is Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. And which is that form? That form is the form of Sri Krishna, Sri Ram, Sri Narasimha, the form of the personalities of Godhead, direct Sri Krishna, or the plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord. To practice Hatha Yoga or to practice any yoga, Prabhupada says, first thing is to sit one's head and back in the straight line. Now, this is something which is very important, that when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra also, we have to ensure that we are our back and the head should be in the straight line, right? Many times, we may have a posture which is not very straight back, and that can cause a back pain as well, and that cause mind also to slip off very fast. Okay, there are some mechanical ways to control the mind, and one of the way there is correct sitting posture. And this is important not only for the yogis, even for the bhakti yogis who are chanting Hare Krishna. So one has to sit one's back straight as possible. It is age appropriate, it has to be. And this is very important. Again, coming back to yoga, the yoga has to be practiced in a secluded place or sacred atmosphere. And therefore, we try to chant at least 1 day, 2 days a week in temple as well. Of course, chanting at home and chanting at temple is one and the same. At the same time, chanting in the temple hall has its own benefits. We are associating with so many devotees, the deities are personally being worshipped, and temple is called as a Shakti Peeth, where a lot of Shakti is stored because of the collective sadhana of so many personalities. Therefore, we should make it a point to visit temple, ISKCON temple, nearby Hare Krishna temple, and chant at least once a week, twice a week if we are staying nearby. And again, it is age appropriate, your profession appropriate, but one should look forward, right? Chanting in a secluded place, sanctified by sacred atmosphere. Of course, home is also a sacred atmosphere. Chanting at home is, grihastha dharma. At the same time, one should take advantage of chanting in the temple, visiting the temple, taking darshan of the Lord. Otherwise, what is the use of staying near temple, right? One cannot practice yoga in a congested city, living a life of extravagancy, having unrestricted sense indulgence and adultery of the tongue. Okay. So yoga means it has to be performed, especially when he's talking about the Ashtamarga, that yogic marga. It is very, very strict. Lord Krishna in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita very elaborately describes about this, what this dhyana yoga or Ashtanga yoga means. It is not some fancy thing that it comes with all the extravaganza. No, it is a strict control and the control of the tongue to begin with. Otherwise, Prabhupada says, one may indulge in all kind of different forbidden food and drink, and at the same time think that he is a very advanced yogi and he's just fooling himself and his followers. Such unauthorized yogis even dare to say publicly that one can indulge in any habit of drinking and at the same time practice meditation. Right? Sambhog se samadhi tak. So this is a different form of adultery which is being introduced, which is not there in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Prabhupada says, we have no problem you proposing your mark. At least don't blackmail Patanjali for that. Right? You propose by your own name. But if you go by your own name, nobody will ask you. You have no value in the market. And therefore, you are blackmailing the name of Patanjali, who has very clearly described about how to practice meditation, how to perform the yoga. So Prabhupada writes very clear and direct purport here. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Yeah, Leela Prabhu.
Prabhu, you were saying that Patanjali has a strict form of meditation, but many people who does meditation in many other societies, not Hare Krishna ones, but they do on a kind of silent meditation kind of thing. So, do we have any authorized scripture or something how the meditation can be done? Because we have one neighbor who comes to my program, and he goes to something called Kanha Ashram outside Hyderabad, Prabhu. So, they are based on Ramachandra mission or something like that, some kind of meditation process. It's a quite famous place, Kanha Ashram. So they teach this kind of meditation. So when I was talking to me saying that first we have to realize that we are body, so and let all those things outside, then only I can feel with Krishna, something he was telling. So is there any authorized way where we can, like, at least I can show him that this is authorized way of Patanjali meditation?
Patanjali Yoga Sutra very clearly describes about how the meditation goes in. Right. What the meditation means and what is the form that we have to meditate on. That is one thing. Second thing is that we do not directly criticize any organization. Right. Because we are not in the mood of that holier than thou, we are the best. Although we are, frankly, I mean, objectively we study from Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the objectivity, if you put the objectivity, Krishna consciousness put forward the highest philosophy. But, we should not have that kind of abhinivesh that, we are the best. And yes, there are yogic processes, and when we are preaching to somebody who is following something else, we do not go in what they are following so much. Like there is a very nice anecdote. Once, somebody came to Prabhupada and he was arguing from, the Bible. And Prabhupada's disciples, some of the disciples, they were like, they had spent years in the church, studied very deeply in the Bible. And when the fellow started arguing from Bible, these other devotees started quoting Bible left and right. Okay. But then Prabhupada, after that person left, Prabhupada told him that, we should base all our explanation based on Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Although we may have knowledge of something else, but our exposition is we want to propagate the knowledge of the knowledge given by the Supreme Lord. Right. So there is no point somebody showing that, Patanjali has done this and maybe, you can give something, but there is a limit to it because, what happens is Patanjali originally Yoga Sutra, and then people have commented on them, people have published extensively on different types of books. What to speak of Patanjali Yoga Sutra? Chaitanya Charitamrita was published in so many different ways. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur took literally 18 years to ascertain which is real Chaitanya Charitamrita. Right. Now, this is what we are talking about, just a literature which is 400 years old. And there are so many versions and editions of that. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur taking 20 odd years to study different versions and coming out with the authorized one. Now, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you show one book, they will show another book. And you say this is authentic, they will say no, this is authentic. So point is that we keep our basis as Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and from that pivot we approach all our preaching, right?
Yes, Prabhu. I agree, Prabhu.
Yeah. Now regarding what they are doing, I mean, some elements of right, some elements of, and then we are nobody to judge them, and I mean, there is a whole world to preach to. So we encourage them to become devotees of the Lord. Just like one time, one lady, she came to Prabhupada's preaching, and she said that, Swamiji, I'm doing yoga also, and recently I have started bhakti yoga. You're chanting, and when I chant Hare Krishna, I see the red circle, the red dot I see, and then a red light I see. And Prabhupada told her that keep chanting Hare Krishna, slowly that light will go away. Okay. So we don't discourage people. Uh, Neither we discourage very heavily, we criticize other path and just create some controversy. At the same time, we have to give the clear knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Right?
Yes, Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada.